initial shots with this, and it did not do super awesome. It's shooting like, what, 4+ inch groups, so not super awesome, but we're going to give it a go.
See.
It's also very windy, and we're shooting 55s, so.
Correcto. Gorlami. Andiamo.
Target number 1. Impact. Impact. Hey, right in the center. Target 2. Impact. Impact. Nice. Okay.
Location?
That second shot was right in the center chest. Target 3. I believe just high. Impact. Impact.
Okay.
Okay. Target 4.
Left side? Or straight back behind it?
Or straight back behind it.
Okay.
Just off the left edge. Impact. Impact.
Okay.
Second shot was right in the upper torso.
Okay.
All right, we're going all the way to the far left for target 5.
Okay.
I'm on. Just off the left edge, bottom half of the target. Okay, just off the left edge, good elevation. Impact. Impact. Those actually were touching, dude. Those 2 impacts right in the upper center chest.
Nice. Okay, so that last one I had, it's already at the very tip of the target on aiming on the top. So I'm aiming at the head line of the target. So I'm gonna flip to the 400 meter and
going back to holding low then?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Target 6 to the left of the pigs. Impact, dead center. Honestly, stand by. The wind's picked up here and it's shaking me around a little bit. Just off the right edge. Impact.
Nice.
That was an obvious hit, huh?
Yeah.
Good report, too, coming back.
So those were aiming at the lower quadrant of the target. That last one, because right now we're getting full value wind from our left to right. It looks to be around, what, 12 miles per hour?
Yeah, I mean, when we started the day out, we were at a much more manageable 6 or 7 miles per hour. Now we're up over, probably over 10. I'm there, fire when ready.
Stand by.
I think maybe just a little low left. Okay, that was over his right shoulder, about a half a target to the right. Yeah, left. Right. Impact. Just off the right edge, about a quarter target. Just off the left edge. Impact.
Okay.
It's tough, dude. The wind with the 55s, huh? All right, 500. Off the left. Just off the right. Good elevation. You got the elevation dialed in there.
Okay.
Off the left, about a half a target. Off the left. That was just a little high over his head. Just short. Yeah, short. Just off the right edge. Just off the left edge, maybe a touch short. Just off the right. Impact.
I'm out.
Ah, no.
I want to see this one clear. I want to see this one clear. Well, you know, it's already not cleared, but I want to see the second impact. Typically, we would just end it right here, but I want to see the Italian stallion at least do the second impact. You ready?
Yeah, I'm there. Just off the right edge. Just short. That was almost a full target. Impact!
Nice! Okay. So,
I would say that within the context of the wind conditions that we have here today, like, it's quite blustery. We've got full value winds, and it's gusting anywhere between, you know, sub 10 to up to 12, 14 miles an hour.
yeah.
I think that it performed actually much better than I anticipated based on the group sizes that we printed on paper, which I think you said was like 3.5 inches.
4.
Yeah, through 4 inches.
So, okay, one thing that we've got to understand when it comes to this type of stuff, when it's shooting 4 inches and then your wind conditions, gusty is actually more difficult than a constant strong wind.
Right, because if you have a constant strong wind, you can get your hold and then you just hold for the wind. But if then all of a sudden the wind dies on you or blows harder, then suddenly, you know, that's going to throw you off.
So that was one thing I was fighting with this. The system itself, in a nutshell, is an AK type long stroke 2-lugged rotating bolt system. So when I'm saying it's about 4 MOA, it's not that far off. Basically, if you think of what a Kalash does in the past, you know, apply it to this 18-inch barrel, 2-position sight though. So compared to some of the Kalashes, let's say if we were using a 2X or something that had a good BDC for the scope, that would make it a lot easier. However,
yeah, you're having to leverage holding under. And knowing when to click the sight over, and then going from holding under to holding slightly over to holding under, depending on the targets.
Yeah, however, I mean, I would say within reasonable combat distances, I think the short ones, it actually performed decently well. It kept it all in there for the shorter range targets, which the U.S. Army quals at 300 meters, so that's close to 320, 330 yards. So if you put that into context, what the U.S. Army considers as sort of a combat effectiveness, a qualification for the rifle for combat effectiveness, would this do that?
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
Just saw it do it.
We have more coming to you, though, on this particular rifle. It's a very unique example to see in the States, to be honest. For a long time, we didn't expect to get an AR7090 on the show, but very unique example. But we will talk about that more in the debrief, unless you have some more. Okay, see you guys then. Ciao. Oh, hello there. You must have caught me freshening up the 9-hole Reviews Mark 12. Now, did you know the 9-hole Reviews is largely supported by Slate Black Industries and the patrons of Patreon? That's true. All those 77 OTMs, all those heartbreaks and range fees that we experience. Behind us, we have the patrons of Patreon, who support us not only financially and intellectually, but emotionally. So today I'd like to invite you to become one of us. Join us on Patreon and become a patron of Patreon. And if not, completely understand. We'd be just as happy to hear from you in the comments section down below. But for now, onwards we go. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to our debrief time. We're back in the comfort of our homes, and we're just going to talk about what you guys saw just out there on the field a little earlier for us, but in the same time frame for you guys. So Josh, what did you see?
Well, I think for
the most part, we came away from that run with a bit of a sour taste in our mouths, because obviously the end of the run did not go particularly well on the 450 and especially on the 500-yard targets. With that said, I do think that we knew, generally speaking, that the rifle probably wasn't going to be the most amazing when we started things off. What are you doing?
Just enjoying some of the snacks since we could cut the screen out. It's Chef Boyardee. It's from your homeland.
Did you at least heat it up?
It's in the tin. I don't have to heat it up.
So as I was saying, I think at the onset of the run, we had a pretty good indication that it wasn't going to be amazing, because the rifle had printed on paper like 3.5 to 4 inches. So we knew it wasn't going to be great. The wind was significant on the day, north of 10 miles an hour and gusting. So we went from, you'd have little wind and then all of a sudden a full value 12 mile an hour wind, shooting 55 grain ball ammunition. That's just not going to be great. But as I went back and watched the run, I actually thought you did fairly well out to the 300 meter mark. Pretty much out to 300 meters, save a miss here or there that you then immediately were able to correct on subsequent shots. It actually seemed to go quite well. It was really not until those further targets, the 450 and the 500-yard targets, that we saw any real degradation to the point where it just looks like the wheels fell off.
I feel like, for me, I was having really high hopes for the rifle. I mean, first of all, personally, I think it's a super cool looking rifle. And I think shooting the ARX earlier, the ARX 100, man, that rifle did so well. In my mind, instinctively, I was thinking, yeah, I know it's a 2-position elevation sight, but it's got to kill it. But then, man, when we zeroed it, 3.5, 4 inches on paper, I mean, that wasn't amazing. I mean, it's sort of like at Kalashnikov territory, but kind of that makes sense, though, because it is pretty close to a Kalashnikov's design. There's a long stroke gas piston pulling a 2-lugged rotating bolt. I mean, that is a Kalashnikov design. But I mean, really, one of the things that it's actually even closer to an SG550, though. Because back in the day, the Swiss and Beretta, they had been on a joint project to develop the next generation weapon, which would have been competing with the M16s, the Kalashnikovs, and a lot of those NATO rifles that are out there. But of course, that relationship fell apart, and thus we have the ARX70/90 behind me, and we also have the SIG SG550. The whole family over there. And both of those are actually very similar in a sense that they are a long stroke gas piston system pushing a 2-lugged rotating bolt. Now, I will say the SGs in the past, when I've shot them, I have had a very pleasant experience, but they still weren't as accurate as the M16s. I know that's sacrilege to say that it's not as accurate as the M16s, but I have to be honest here. It just isn't. I don't know if it's from experience shooting the M16 series a lot, that I just, to me, it's very familiar, or the system itself. I mean, instinctively, I'm kind of curious if that long stroke system with a 2-lug rotating bolt is just not the best with accuracy when you embed it into a stamp sheet metal receiver. I mean, I don't know. But I mean, take things with a grain of salt. I think with the 0 to 300 meter engagement distance, I think the AR70/90 was actually fairly effective, which that's usually the range that you expect your soldiers to perform.
Right. I think that's a fair assessment, and why it was sort of important for me to reiterate the point that inside of that pocket, it actually seemed to do very well Like you threw a shot here or there, but as soon as we gave the correction of, oh, this is where it went, the next shots were bang bang, like hit or within the scope of collecting hits very soon thereafter. So it definitely seemed to perform within that, standard engagement range pocket.
Oh, yes. You're remote, so you can't have any gabagool. But within that pocket, yes, the performance pocket.
Mm-hmm.
Very well, very, very well stated. I think though that is something that we need to focus on. That the 5.56 performance pocket is typically within that 300-400 meter zone, right?
Oh.
And we're also looking at an iron sight rifle with non-elevation adjustability. So according to the Italian Ministry of Defense manual on the AR70/90, the max effective range of this particular weapon system with a 5.56 ballistic limitations to them is considered 400 meters, which is around 450 yards on today's course. Impact. So that day it was fairly windy, but not just windy, but gusty.
Right.
I mean, it has to be delineated between windy and gusty. So we were seeing the windsock going up and down, like stay down, and then it would stay up, and stay down, it would stay up, which means it was a little bit more difficult on the windage adjustment side for me. But I was only expecting to see the shots being thrown off with windage, not with elevation, but we saw elevation shots getting thrown off too.
Yeah, it really became prevalent at the 500, I think. There might have been like one or two shots that sailed for elevation inside of the 500-yard target, but the 500-yard target, there were several times where the rounds sailed fairly significantly. It would not have been within the scope of a 20-inch circle. Or ring of deviation or cone of deviation at that distance. It was outside of that. And that either indicates that you were like yanking the shot significantly or that something was going on somewhere with respect to the elevation. There were at least two shots that I recall that were like well over a target's length in elevation difference at that range.
Mm-hmm. No, the rifle itself, I will say though, it's not particularly a lot heavier than the M16. The same day I also shot the fixed stock M16A2, and I don't know which one we're going to push first, but the M16A2 did significantly better.
Right.
So I don't know if it were really the performance side of me, because I wasn't feeling anything different shooting that one particular day.
Yep.
Now, I have to, in good conscience, I have to say this. Now, these AR70/90s that we see in America, most of them are kit builds. If they are not kit builds, they are probably illegally brought into the country, because the AR70/90 was after the assault weapon ban. And
so is this a Cousin Harry shipment, or?
This is not a Cousin Harry shipment.
Aww.
We've got to thank our friend, and I'll get his name right this time, Kirill. The same guy who loaned us the M76, the Yugo. Now, it is a kit build. The barrel is not original, because during the importation process of the kits, the barrels had to be chopped up. However, I will say, I think a lot of times people pine after the original barrels too much. If you're looking at, not from a collector's perspective, obviously, if you want to collect, original barrel is always premium. But from a shooting perspective, the repro barrels may not be as bad as people would think that they are. I mean, we have built a fair amount of ARs out there, and you could go out and buy some $100, $150 ballistic advantage barrel or whatever is barrel, and still be able to put together an AR that positively puts 2 MOA ball ammo group on paper at 100 meters. No issue.
I think that's a fair assessment. You can go buy most modern barrels from reputable manufacturers are going to give you somewhere around a 2-inch group or less, if you know, depending on which match barrel it is or this or that for general rack ARs. Yes.
So I am on the side of thinking that the barrel may not have as big of a detracting factor from it. And if it did, it may not be as much of a detracting factor to it. Now, the other side would be the receiver, because the receiver is a U.S. manufacturer, 80% receiver that the gunsmith had put together for it. Now, typically, if we do see issues with a stamped receiver, maybe from heat warp or something like that, you would see functionality issues. I will say this, the rifle functioned perfectly. I have not had a single jam through it, and on the reliability side, it has been phenomenal. The rifle also recoils extremely low. I don't know what it is about it. It actually feels like the AK-9er when I shoot it. So for some reason, it's an extremely low recoiling rifle. So as far as your closer range engagements, I would venture to say that this would be a pretty awesome short range 5.56 rifle. Now, it is an 18-inch barrel, so you're not going to run around with it like a 10.5, right? But as far as a shorter range, rifle to engage your 100 to 300 meter targets, you don't have as much muzzle blast as your 10.5s, your shorties, and it's very gradual on the recoil. I think on that end, it's something that we typically don't see or we don't talk about in practical accuracy. But going back to the kit build issues, if it were a barrel issue causing it to group poorly, then, I would say Italian soldiers out there, if you don't mind commenting in the comment section below, how accurate is your AR70/90? I mean, I am curious to knowing, if this was an issue unique to this kit build or if this type of accuracy is sort of expected. On the other end, we've shown especially the AK accuracy video, 4 MOA at 100 is not necessarily, it's not going to get you killed in the streets.
That's an important delineation, right? Like, this rifle failed the course. We struggled a lot come 450, 500. And whilst we had similar issues shooting 7.62x3.9 Kalash systems that are printing 3.5, 4-inch, paper groupings, all of those that we've tested, I can't think of a single one that's actually failed on the course. Can you?
I don't. Yeah.
I mean, some of them have been in the 30s or mid 30s even, but I don't think any have straight up just not made it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's an important delineation. To your point, we have definitely shown that level of paper accuracy is in no way not effective in a practical accuracy style course environment, or what we're attempting to mimic is actual engagement distances with these firearms.
Now, to the effect of the AR7090 though, outside of the elevation misses, a lot of those misses seem to be very close to the targets per se.
Totally agreed.
I think we ended that rifle. That rifle ended the 40th round as a hit. True. On the 500-yard target, and then in a few more rounds it gave it the second hit, which it had some elevation issues, but then at the end of the day, it still hit it within the next pocket of 5-6 rounds.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
So, is it the best? Is it ideal per se when you have to shoot a target at that distance? Maybe not. Maybe M16A2 is a better solution. But does that make it a poor rifle? Reliability wise, I didn't see anything with it. I thought that it actually recoils very nicely. So I mean, take this with a grain of salt every now and then. I'm not trying to just be overly gentle with the rifle itself, but know that this run had some caveats. And one of those caveats is that it's a kit build, and we have a little bit more to figure out by hearing from you guys in the comment section on your experience on the AR7090.
Perfect. And with that said, guys, until next time, see you on the range.
Patron 16, this is Steel Knight 6, 4 Vic, 8 packs, Redcon 1, green to green. How copy, over?
Steel Knight 6, this is Patron 6, roger, over. 1 6, Steel Knight 1, 1